Hello there. My God, it's been a long time. Kind of feels weird to be doing this, actually. Those of you watching on the replay, my name is Corey, and I am a husband, a father, whew, speaker, DEIA practitioner, whatever. And I used to host every week a broadcast called Existential Sunday. It's Sunday, and so I'm back doing an impromptu video. Didn't tell nobody I was doing it. A lot of folks are probably still at church, but I wanted to take some time to actually do this. So let me see if I can see any comments. Feel free to leave a comment here. Good to see you too, Ruth. For those of you that are watching live, feel free to leave a comment, say hello. I'll come through later and say hello to y'all too. But let me get to the point about the gas, which is the inside joke that many of you probably don't know. So yesterday, Julie asked me if I wanted to go to church. Those of you who don't know, Julie's my wife. Let me give you a quick update. For those of you that do know about me and my wife and the situation we recently had, for some of you, even hearing that I had a conversation with her is probably incredible news, because back in December of last year, we had a really, really scary situation where woke up early in the morning. Julie said she had a headache, pretty bad headache. Took her to the ER, found out that she had an aneurysm that ruptured in her head. And she was in the ICU for a month before coming home and being on like a 4-month recovery. Update, she is doing great. She's back to working remote. Obviously, having, obviously, when you've had a month in the ICU, it's not like you're 100%, but she is, man, we're very grateful. Very, very grateful. I'm grateful to have had a conversation with her yesterday about whether or not I wanted to go to church today. And when she said it, back to the story and why I'm having this conversation, why I felt like it was live worthy, a couple reasons. I found myself like wrestling with this notion of community and like what feels like has been missing, from me over the last several months since I stopped doing this live, and stopped doing this live for a number of reasons. One, the algorithm. I was tired of fighting it. Still maybe tired of fighting it, but it felt like today, doing a live video again, possibly getting back into podcasting, probably getting back into podcasting again, would be something that like fed my soul and gave me like an outlet for all these things I've been thinking about for the last 6 months and only talking to a couple of people about. So here I am back to share with you. And if you are a person that used to watch Existential Sundays, listen to the podcast, feel free to share this content with anybody you want to share it with. You can share it now. You can add people to the comments. If you're watching it on YouTube, I don't know what to do over there. And to be honest with y'all, I haven't even like, as you can see, I'm just sitting in the kitchen. I have no like setup. I got no lights. I just came on to go live. And part of that is what I'll explain. Okay, so now let me get to the point. Sorry. It was a lot of like early on stuff. And if you're watching the replay, you're like, my God, dude, get to the point. So she asked me if I wanted to go to church. And I initially was like, I don't know if I want to get up and do all of that. And this morning I got up and said, do you want to go to church? And she's like, no, I'm tired. So we wound up not going to church today, but I did get up and make some coffee, smoked a cigar, and did some reading. I've been reading a couple books recommended to me by Rolando Lamb, my brother. Been reading this book. I was reading this one this morning, Living Buddha, Living Christ by, I'm not going to try to say his name because I don't know how. And I don't want to mispronounce it. But one of the things I read today that I found really interesting was, as this Buddhist monk was outlining what it means to be in community, he was talking about a couple elements that exist, one of which is sharing space together, sharing principles and only using words that lead to the harmony of the community. And I'm like, all of that sounds amazing. Right. And I've been thinking about community a lot. Like, what does it mean to have community? I remember with Existential Sunday, it felt like there was a community here. It was in the middle of the pandemic. So it's like, people were home on Sundays and not at church. And I say not at church because I think there is something to be said for the reasons why people go to church or to a mosque or to um, a go to mass or whatever they go to, is because it's the only game in town, I think, if you are a person who wants to engage in or wrestle with spirituality, that like it's almost like reserved for a certain like group of people. So if you are a person that came out of the Christian tradition like I have, then like if you're going to engage with God or things about God, it has to be in church, because you might think nobody else cares or like where else is there like a regular gathering of people who are engaging in conversations about the things that we can't see, and the things like the whole world, the whole space beyond what we can feel and touch and smell and hear, that we all believe, I think we should say all believe is real. Like, where else do you go do that? So um our wrestling with church was not so much about like, do we miss church? More so a missing of a group of people who care about like the divine, who care about like the world beyond, again, what we can see. So as I'm reading about these principles, right, the thing that made me want to jump up and go, okay, I want to go live and talk about this, it was that the shared principles, and I think that the shared principles are the thing that like um organized religious institutions have, that I think there has been, not in every instance, but there has been some misuse of. And here's what I mean by that. I think that shared principles in a community should actually serve that community's health and well-being. So it's like if we all agree that no one in our community is going to I don't know, like, I can't think. I really should have had an analogy. Something about, if we all agreed no one in our group was going to drink soy, and there was a reason why no one was going to drink soy, because of X, Y, and Z, and the harm it does to the community, blah blah blah. And then 100 years from now, research comes out and science is developed that says that soy is no longer harmful to X, Y, and Z folks. If we as a community still hold to the principle of not drinking or eating soy, just because it's a principle, at that point, I think what has happened is that principle no longer serves the community, and the community now serves that principle. And I think that is a recipe for disaster, because what that's a recipe for is people's agency, autonomy, their own reasoning, their own consciousness is stifled because they are not allowed to engage in any sort of like heavier discussion or questioning or interrogation of the principles that everybody agreed to. And it doesn't mean that those principles were no longer were never good or never had value. It means that as time progresses, if you are not consistently reevaluating the things that you decided that you were going to do as a group, those things can go from being a tool that helps you connect to each other, helps you connect to the greater community, helps you connect to the divine, and it becomes a tyrant that keeps you from engaging in authentic community and engaging with the divine in an authentic way. Because there is an authenticity that comes from showing up as yourself in space, with all of the questions, all of the comments, all the personality, all of the culture, all the things that like you bring to it. If you can't bring that stuff to community because there is a theology or a principle or an idea that's blocking that, then what you are engaged in is actually more akin to a cult than it is to a community for spiritual growth and enrichment. And so, to answer the question why I did not go to church today is because when I thought about the idea, and this is no disrespect or slant to any of my friends out there who pastor churches and have community, and you're doing a great job. I'm going to speak for Corey directly. What I struggled with this morning was, where can I go and find a community that is practicing community in a way that is consistently evolving and consistently taking into account new information as well, not to mention a community that is engaged in what's happening in the world in a way that is actually being helpful and actually encouraging people to be helpful, encouraging people to engage in the conversations that are happening around our world that matter, like the conversation happening about gun violence, which I'm not, you know what, under normal circumstances, like when I used to do this all the time, I would go on a full-on gun violence rant, but I'm not going to do that today. It's not the conversation I'm having today. I'm staying right here in spiritual practice, spiritual community, and asking each one of you who's watching this, if you're watching now or watching it later, to leave in the comments, for my sake and maybe your sake or the sake of other people that want to know about this. How have you found community for yourself, especially those of you who have gone on the journey of deconstructing your worldview in any way, whether you have deconstructed your worldview from a like theological, spiritual, religious standpoint, which many folks have done, or you are deconstructing or decolonizing your worldview when it comes to politics or the ways that you view groups of people. I know that there is lots of conversations still about gender and human sexuality and things of that nature. And quite frankly, a lot of my brothers and sisters, I'll say, because I think everyone, I have come to realize that any human being walking the planet is brother and sister to me. Whether they are in community with me and aligned with me around like things I think are important in the world, or peace, goodness, kindness, compassion, or they're people who are hateful and want to destroy the world. I cannot distance myself from them just because I disagree with them or just because that I think they're wicked. They're my brothers and sisters. So when I say brothers and sisters, I don't mean that I am aligned with or in the tribe with those folks. I mean that as a human being who exists on the planet, I am made of the same stuff that they are. I'm pausing on purpose because I felt like that was like a pause-worthy moment. And I know I'm like saying a bunch of stuff, and I tend to do that. I just say a bunch of stuff, and then like I can feel the energy behind it, and I don't pause long enough to let it sit. So let me say this one last time, then I'm gonna get out of here. I would like for you to share in the comments how you as a human being, regardless of where, you could be a person who's like, yeah, I still remain committed to my, religious practice, and here's how I find community in that. If you just leave a blurb, if you want to, I would love to see that in the comments. I'll go back and read these later. Good to see you, Jen, Kenny, Tabitha, Ruth, Ross, Carol. Good to see y'all in the comments. Leave a comment even if you don't answer the question about community, but I just love to re-engage with some folks here. All right, y'all. Grace and peace.